Hello everybody, and today we'll be taking a look at a game called Mindustry, a game that blends Factorio with traditional tower defense elements. Mindustry is a game about carefully managing and designing logistics systems to bring resources to your core. Your core is kind of like your town center in Age of Empires or any other RTS that you would find. Everything brought to your core can be used to construct new buildings and weapons. While doing this, you're put on a timer between different attack waves in a tower defense sort of way. Thus, the game kind of becomes a bit like a clever balancing act between trying to sufficiently make sure you get enough resources by building out mines and things, while also ensuring that you're getting enough defenses to defend yourself. It's an incredibly satisfying gameplay loop that blends the fun of tower defense with careful resource management. The production lines are not quite as advanced as Factorio, but they're still deep enough to require careful planning to design them. The towers and defenses are well varied with traditional turrets, lasers, artillery, air defenses, and more. Despite having fairly basic graphics, it's still very satisfying to watch. The screen kind of shakes, and there's interesting sound effects and explosions that happen. It's pretty fun to watch. The campaign is where I spent most of my time, and it's fairly lengthy. Basically, you go into a scenario and survive as long as you can, or until you've completed whatever objective you need to unlock the next level. When you're done, you can launch your core up, and then use all the resources you've collected from that level to then purchase new tech in the tech tree. The tech tree is actually quite large, with a ton of options for resources, defenses, energy production, and more that really give you a lot to work with and chew on. Towards the later missions, the game also adds in RTS elements with buildable attack robots you can use to control small armies by building fabricators, then march your army of drones across to destroy your enemy's base. It's kind of interesting how it mixes the game up like that to make it fresh feeling. You can even upgrade yourself into a combat mech and even go into battle yourself, controlling it, shooting up little lasers around, blowing up your opponent's stuff. When you're done with the campaign, there's a fairly expansive map editor. You can choose from a number of pre-built maps for survival or sandbox, and even PvP modes to go up against people online. My only real complaints with Mindustry is that it's a bit clunky sometimes to play. The game doesn't do the best job at explaining what buildings properly do what, and there's no real tooltip explaining things. You kind of just gotta try things out. Some things like bridges don't quite work the way I'd like them to, and it's just a little frustrating in that way at times. But none of that really held me back. The game is still a lot of fun. The graphics are not the greatest either, but they're pretty good at what they do and express the game fairly well for being a budget game. Overall, Mindustry is an incredibly satisfying game that I have few complaints about. At $6, it's honestly pretty hard to criticize this game when I got well over 20 plus hours into it. I can highly recommend it to fans of Factorio or even tower defense, as it's something very different from the standard tower defense gameplay. Mindustry gets a 9 out of 10, an incredibly satisfying game at $6 with a pretty robust package of things to do. You can spend at least 24 hours in this game if you want to, just doing different missions and objectives and things.